good.
Okay, go.
Hi, my name's Beck. My project is Islington Housing, and it's a housing project that's been based on the premise that we're in need of more dense models of urban housing, but currently we're reliant on developers to produce a model that's based on a speculative investment model rather than something that has different agendas at its core. And so my year's been about working through a site planning strategy for a specific site in Islington, and then also working up a housing model that allows for a different process of housing to occur within a set site. And the research I've been doing started with the work of Elemental and then started looking into the work of John Harbracken and the SAR and the notion of structure and infill, where the structure is the representative of the community agendas and is responsible for setting up a program of site that relates to urban and community concerns, and then the infill is responsible by the individuals, and it reflects the diversity of individual inhabitants, but the structure sets up a harmonic order that structures this development that occurs over time. And so the site itself is located in Islington, and it's the red point up there. It's on Maitland Road, which runs the curve of the darker highlighted areas, and they're much of the social and public infrastructure of Newcastle, and so the site itself ties into that network. And then it's also located on Sticks Creek, which runs through here, which, as a result of a decision when housing got put on the floodplains, is responsible for the drainage of much of Newcastle, so it has to deal with a tidal waterway that drains that area of water during storms. This is a site plan, which I'll go into later, but as you can see, north up the page, so it's a north-facing site. This is it down here, so you're the north looking towards the model and both of the models, and it's an L-shaped site that addresses the waterway, Maitland Road, and it has the Tyers Hill TAFE adjacent across the waterway. This is an image of the site itself, which reads Maitland Road predominantly as a bridge. It addresses the water, and at the moment it has a mixture of light industrial uses. There's a temporary petrol station, but it's mostly used for storage, and it's an underutilised site in an area that's really in need of a bit of energy and vibrancy to work with it. The image there on the right is the bridge that you saw in the previous picture, and so what this waterway does is it links it into the greater context of Newcastle, and it's also, the site itself is immediately next to Islington Park, which sits in through here and across here, and this allows the housing development to sort of borrow the amenity and work within this greater network that exists. And there's also a bike path that runs through that connects the town with the major bike route out to the university. Additionally, the site, this is an image that looks up this section here, and so the site not only has the natural environment, but it sits within the industrial history of Newcastle, and it has this to sort of deal with and work within. And then, as I said, the TAFE, Tyers Hill TAFE is these buildings in here, and this is a photograph taken in this building here, which is the framing workshop, and so part of the site planning is to integrate with the TAFE and the building trades. And then, so looking at the model itself, the diagram of how the site works is that the housing sits along the water boundary, and the bike path which runs along the front of the site and maintains public access to the water and a public interface to the site. There's workshops that sit here in the back, and so they provide a secondary public circulation route that puts a new bridge across here through the TAFE, because this building's the library and this one's the canteen, so they're the major social buildings, and then there's an oval through here, so it takes that access, runs a second route back through here, which is separate from the housing by a path. And what this does is it puts public activity through the site, but with privacy to the residential areas. This is the main communal node, which has an interface to the TAFE. It interfaces but is set back from the main public path. And then there's two, and it contains the social areas, so a main kitchen, toilets, communal laundries, and some barbecue areas. And then there's two smaller barbecue areas here and here, which are done to break the site down into smaller groups and provide areas for people to have dinners and things like that that they might not have within the housing themselves. And so that's an image of the site plan itself. So on the access point, you see the central node and the access that runs off towards the TAFE. Down to the bottom is the smaller area, up there is a smaller area, and then there's a commercial frontage to Maitland Road. Oh, thank you. Maitland Road, which addresses Maitland Road, and also provides a threshold from the road into the site, which is quite noisy, so that Maitland Road doesn't interfere unnecessarily. And there's looking in on the central axis, and so this is an outdoor barbecue area with a smaller space and staying there, and the road runs through here, but is designed through there and down there. It's designed to be undermined by a public plaza, which can be used for large events, and the idea is that this might actually be used for larger community events, and it's separate from the residential, so they can still retain privacy within that. Down in the other areas, there's a central park, the workshops run through there, and then just a smaller outdoor barbecue area. It addresses a public area, providing public activity on that walkway. And then there's a commercial shops lining Maitland Road, which runs through here, and a smaller outdoor barbecue area which addresses the waterfront up the top. This is just some section which shows the relationship of the TAFE, which across the road is grassland and some large fig trees, the creek of Islington of Six Creek, the housing which sits in here, a sunken garden which when it floods becomes a floodable garden space, which is quite probably only every 10 years that it'll flood, but it's just in the bottom of the tidal network because this empties and drains twice a day depending on the tides, and then the workshops on the southern side of the site with their separate access way for trucks and things like that that's separated by the garden. And just looking closer, you see there's a road through here. The footpath is lower so that there's trees and there's planting to afford privacy, but it's still quite close so that there's surveillance of that path and it remains a public place. And then this is looking in the narrower section of the site which runs through here, which is where there's residential on the southern side and the northern side, and both have access to northern light. The road runs through here, it's about 3.5 metres wide. It's designed to be predominantly read as a pedestrian walkway because although there's paths here, the intention is that these paths would have maybe planter boxes and seats and would remain an extension of the house, it's perhaps a social area, and that this would be undermined as a roadway but would still allow cars to run through. Which gets to the housing model, which is where I've spent most of my time, and it was the notion of an inhabitable wall which would serve as a garden or an empty space for someone to move in when they're first living somewhere, maybe a little bit of building and built out entirely. And so you see this here in the model, where there's the wall and it's someone that's chosen to live with a large garden space, perhaps someone that's built a single room to start with and they just have a balcony underneath, and over time they might infill it. And so I guess the back of the model, which you can't see as well, just shows frame structures that continue to look like that to show this continual state of flux as the housing develops over time in tune with the needs and the values of the inhabitants. And the pitch is designed to preempt a stair because the walls come with a step ladder, which might be suitable at the time, but if someone has children and later on they might need a full stair, so it's designed to imagine a future stair that comes up to potentially a third level and a room at the top. And this is just a drawing of what I was saying before, so imagining that someone might just build a single room up the top and they might live there for a few years as they save, and slowly over time they can build their dwelling so that it might become a house and reflect their lives as they grow. And the planning is designed so that there's a central area there, and that this might get sort of, you might put a stair there so that you have a separation of spaces from the front and the back. And if someone wants, it can retain as a bathroom because there's a shower and there's a toilet, and it might be all you need for the rest of your life. But it might not be, because you might have children and you might need a bath. And so there's room for a small bath or a small bathroom at the top, 2 small bedrooms within the width, so it's 3.6 metres between walls and 1.3 within the walls. So there's enough for about a 2.4 metre bedroom, which is small, but it's intended for children, and that maybe as the children grow up, you might have 2 kids, and then as they grow up, you build a level, the third level at the top, and so that you don't need the big rooms at the start.
Can you say that again?
So, yeah.
What's the internal width between the party wall?
Because you said 1.3, but it's more than that, isn't it?
No, that's 1.3 metres.
But you're showing a bedroom in there, a toilet or bathroom or something.
So that's 3.6 and that's 1.3. So that's wide enough to have a small bathroom which sits in here with the shower at that end and the toilet
That's
there.
the clear width, is it? 1.3 clear?
Internal.
No,
Internal.
1.1 internal, so it's quite narrow. So
1.1, and what's the internal space for the other bigger space?
What's that? 3.6 was 1.1, 3.7. No, 4.7.
Well, there's a double bed and then there's a space between the wall and the bed?
Sorry, which one?
So,
In the double bed space?
That one there?
Yeah, what width is there?
That's smaller, so that's had that space which has been left as a garden. So that is, I think I've left about, that looks like a third of that, so that's, I've probably left about 1.5 meters there, which
yeah.
would be that is about 3.6.
It looks about 3 metres. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's meant to be sort of that one there where that's the dwelling and then there's a gap up inside because someone's decided they want to have a
Okay.
narrower.
Just to get this clear, see where the stairwell is?
Yeah,
That one
yeah.
on the right. How wide is that? Is that this space?
No, that's wider than that. That's about this space.
Is
Right.
it
So
2
where
metres
is
wide?
this element?
It's probably about
inside that?
1800.
Where is this element inside that plan?
This element's about there, so it's through there and it's through there. If that makes sense. So it runs that. It's here. Oh, sorry, it's here. There you go.
There's one. Okay.
So that's just the element, and so it's wide enough to basically sleep in and serve an external space, but it itself is not a large space
And
in
that's the
itself.
1.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 1.1 with the 200.
Just holding services, really.
So there's
Yeah.
a 1.1, there's a 3, and then there's a 1.8.
Generally, okay, so that's
No,
There's a 1.1 and a 3.6.
1.1, and next door to that is a 3.
3.6.
To the left is a 3. No, go back to the 1.1.
bedrooms.
Yeah, the bedroom is 3.
that would
No,
be
don't switch it round. The bedroom is that
That?
3? 3 wide.
Yes.
yeah,
And the next one is 1800.
Yes.
yep,
So it goes 1.1, 3, 1800.
Yep.
yep.
Yes, okay. That helps.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Sorry to put you up this stride.
No, that's all good. Okay, so this is the wall, which that's a photograph of that model with some more infill in it. And basically what I was trying to describe was that this becomes a kitchen space which serves an outdoor area sort of there. And a small bathroom in there, and then an entry and a stair up to a sleeping platform, which is basically wide enough to have a single bed. And that's the section through it, and the idea is that the section starts to narrow to sort of create the platform, and there's somewhere that you might sit within there, and then the bathroom and the kitchen. In terms of the structure and how it's built, there's 4 precast panels which are locked in place by a 4th panel which bolts on top, and then there'd be 2 steel columns and a timber structure which would be used to connect into the beams which would run between here and then I guess the next concrete wall on the other side. And then the idea is that there's then panels which connect into the front of this frame, and that these are dimensioned to then spin round, and they're just screw fixed into the steel columns, and then later on they can be moved and used in the facades of the housing as it develops. Which you start to see there, the way that there'd be beams which are connected into here, and then the panels get used elsewhere in the housing. And so the final image, I guess, is envisioning the front of that, the walkway, so that's looking along here back towards the bridge, where the walls set up a ribbon that allows for the diversity of growing to happen between, and it orders it enough to support that, and that there's sort of just informal areas for people to sit and use outdoor spaces within those communal areas, and also starting to acknowledge the waterfront as a waterfront and not a drain, and engaging with that as something to be respected.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Some weeks